Day 9 of President Bola Tinubu presidency, and we're monitoring closely development in his first 100 days in office. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. Remember, you can join the conversation now on Twitter if you use the hashtag first 100 days and tag at TVC News NG, as well as at Nifemi Oguntoye. President Tinubu today sworn in the new secretary to the government of the Federation, and his name is George Akume. The ceremony was conducted inside the council chambers of the presidential villa, and the brief event had in attendance the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, Governor of Benue State, Hyacinth Alia, Governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, as well as National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, and others who were present at the swearing-in.
I am someone who has been on the scene for quite some time, and if you know the woman we are serving, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president, you just have to follow his footsteps. He has never been in the gallery. You know, the galleries, according to Roosevelt, are full of critics. He has always been in the arena, down in the arena, according to Roosevelt, at the doors. He's always a doer, and so we have to tag along. We must never afford to fail.
It's a factor of exaltation. Out of the many states, Benue is chosen, and it's one of our sons whom we're all proud of. We know his requisite. We know what he has offered in the past many decades for the state and for the nation. We're very confident, too confident, that he's also going to deliver, and the nation is going to be proud.
I appreciate God for all that he has done to us. Words cannot express how happy I am. My husband is a very hard-working man, very humble, kind, compassionate. He relates with people very well, and I know this time too he will do the best.
Well, George Akume comes with lots of experience. Two-term governor of Benue State, was a senator. Just as early as 2019, he was Minister of Special Duties under the Buhari administration. It was a busy day for President Tinubu, who also met with Nigerian governors, the Nigeria Governors Forum, perhaps the first meeting he will be having with a larger committee of state governors since becoming president. He also met with oil marketers on the oil subsidy, the full subsidy removal. I'm joined now by State House correspondent Femi Akonde, who is live at the presidential villa. Femi, it would seem that the Tinubu administration is shaping up. We have the first swearing-in, the swearing of the first member of the Federal Executive Council today. How did it go?
Yes, indeed, the administration of Bola Tinubu is already getting traction and also taking those first steps that is necessary to put it in the right direction as it begins the process of governance. Well, for Senator George Akume coming on board as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, it would help the administration, especially when they begin to plan to, when they start to form the Federal Executive Council. It would help it put everything in shape, like ensure that all the processes are followed in setting up the Federal Executive Council. But also for President Bola Tinubu, we expect that apart from this swearing-in, we expect to hear more announcements of some appointments made, especially now that the Senate has given him a go-ahead to appoint 20 special advisors. But this is just the first for the president. You know, the swearing of Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila as Chief of Staff to the President will only happen on the 14th of June. That is after he would have also ended his tenure as Speaker of the 9th National Assembly, that is the House of Representatives. So we expect that Senator George Akume will play a crucial role in the government moving forward now that his appointment has gotten legitimacy. Nifemi.
Interesting development, Femi, when you consider the shift away from, former military officers. The early appointments has shown the Chief of Staff, who is a former Speaker of the House of Reps, the Deputy Chief of Staff, also a former Deputy Governor. So it would seem that the new president is being surrounded by former lawmakers and also individuals who have led their states in the past. Speak to us about the experience George Akume is bringing to the table.
Yes, indeed, Nifemi. George Akume, he also said he has been around for a while, for a very long time. He started his political career as a sole administrator of a local government in Benue State. Before he rose to become the governor of Benue State for 2 terms, he was also in the Senate, where he led the minority party in the Senate. That time, he was in the Action Congress of Nigeria. He led the minority party in the Senate. He has been very prominent in Nigeria's political scene, especially in the north-central region where he comes from. He has also been quite influential in that region, and even during the election, he played a prominent role in ensuring that his state, Benue State, delivered the majority vote for President Bola Tinubu's party, the All Progressives Congress. So, people say that George Akume indeed has paid his dues when you look at his trajectory from coming from Benue State up to the national level. And beyond that, they also say he's competent. He has that capacity. He was the Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs in President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. He was also, in that ministry, he helped coordinate the merit awards that was given out to deserving Nigerians by President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. And he has also carried out some national assignments, critical national assignments, that a lot of people say makes him well qualified to handle the position of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. And that the SGF position is the main role of the SGF will be coordinating the federal cabinet when it is eventually set up, when ministers are eventually appointed. So they need somebody of George Akume's stature, somebody who was a 2-time governor, a minister, a senator, who has seen it all and has that experience that is needed for the smooth running of governance for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Let's turn our attention to other things that happened at the villa today. President Tinubu also received audience of the Nigeria Governors Forum led by the chairman and governor of Kwara State, Abdulrazak Abdulrahman. This is the first meeting between President Tinubu and 36 state governors since his inauguration as president on the 29th of May. Part of the agenda, Femi, is to congratulate the new president for his successful inauguration and also committing to working closely with his administration. He earlier met with the APC governors. What makes this meeting different?
Well, this time it's a full house of governors, 36 state governors. Beyond congratulating him, they also came to support his decision to fully implement the subsidy removal economic policy. They came to tell him that indeed oil marketers and, of course, Nigerian Governors Forum are on the same page with Mr. President, and they also commended his courage, because they say successive administrations have tried amid several failed attempts to remove petrol subsidy, but did not have that political will to see it through. But this time around, President Bola Tinubu coming on board, and just within a week after this policy was announced, things are beginning to take shape, and they say that indeed they are with him on that, and would also ensure that they take this message to the people in their own states, in their communities, to ensure that everyone is on board and understands what the federal government seeks to do and the benefits Nigerians would get from this on the long run. And they would also ask their people to be patient with the federal government as it comes up with different kinds of interventions that would help reduce or cushion the impact of this fuel subsidy removal, because it has really impacted on the price of goods, consumer goods, commodities, and also services. So the federal government is also in a race against time to ensure that it's cushioned the impact of the hardship caused by this policy. What the governors are saying is that they are on the side of President Tinubu.
Forward to see how much impact they will make, particularly now that the president is talking about reviewing the minimum wage upwards, bearing in mind that some governors are even yet to catch up with the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Femi Akonde live for us at the presidential villa. Thank you, Femi. Well, let's turn our attention now to what happened at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, where Boss Mustafa officially handed over affairs of that office to the newly appointed Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, having served for 5.5 years in the Buhari administration. You know, we spoke earlier on this program with the SGF prior to the inauguration. He chaired the presidential task, the Presidential Transition Council, and he spoke about how eventful the past 5 years has been for him, particularly leading the presidential task force during the Buhari administration effort at tackling COVID-19 in Nigeria. So it must really be an eventful and emotional moment for him, having to hand over to someone else to take over the reins of the activities at that office. Our correspondent Helen Osamide Hakins witnessed that event earlier today. Helen, you covered the handover at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, where Boss Mustafa officially handed over to George Akume. Talk to us about what really was handed over to the new SGF.
Anifemi, today at the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, it was very, very eventful. It was more like a two-in-one event, because today the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, officially received documents from the former SGF, which is Boss Mustafa. He handed over some documents which he expects this new SGF, George Akume, to really work with. And then some of these documents are the report from Steve Aronsaye's committee that was set up on bundling of government agencies. You could recall that during the period of Steve Aronsaye's committee, it was said that government agencies and organizations, most of them are duplicating functions, and then there was need for a review. And Aronsaye's report then was that these agencies can be meshed together where they have lesser hand, and it will also help government to save costs. And those reports, since then, nothing was actually done concerning reviewing the reports. But Boss Mustafa's time in office, he set up another committee to review this report, and then the committee submitted the report, that's the white paper. And nothing has actually been done before President Muhammadu Buhari left office. He is also handing over this document to the new Secretary to the Government of the Federation to see to it, to look into it, and see if the report is what the government can actually implement. Recall that the new Secretary to the Government of the Federation has the responsibility to advise the President and the Vice President on policies of government. So that's why this document was handed over to him to see what can be done. Looking at today, where we are complaining about rise in expenses, government is spending so much, especially in payment of salary, capital, and all that. If this report is actually reviewed like the SGF has advised, the government might have opportunity to save costs and spend money on other activities which can benefit the government. Another report that was also submitted was the report of the Presidential Task Force Committee. Remember 2020, when Nigeria had to deal with the outbreak of COVID-19? It was like an emergency for the government. The committee was set up, a lot of things was done, but thanks be to God, Nigeria was able to skate through with, even if there was record of deaths, but it wasn't as compared to other countries. In order to forestall a situation where the country will not just rush into a situation of an emergency like it was in 2020, the committee, after carrying out their responsibility, that's the Presidential Task Force Committee, also came up with a report to present to the government to be able to to know what to do in terms of an emergency. That aside, the issue of Nigerian diplomatic foreign missions, the report was also submitted to this new secretary to the government of the Federation. And the report, according to the SGF, we guide this present administration on what to do concerning Nigerian foreign mission. You discover that most countries, Nigerian government have so many ambassadors in different countries where they are being represented. This report will also guide the government on what to do, either to cut down on it or in terms of what they spend. The report also will help the government on what to do in that respect. And there are also a lot of reports which was also submitted. The report of this transition committee. Remember, the transition committee was set up by the federal government to ensure a seamless transition of power from President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, to this present administration. And this report also was submitted on the committee that was set up. The SGF was the chairman of the committee, with other heads of agencies and heads of security agencies were members of this committee. It's a normal thing for them to submit a report on how the transition went and some of their requirements. I recall the secretary, the former secretary to the government
the outgone SGF himself, you know, headed that particular transition council. So it's a lot of documents handed over to the new SGF, and it's time now, and the clock, as they say, is ticking, and we see how much huge impact he's bringing into the new administration. Helen Osamide Akin's live for us in Abuja. Away from what transpired today at the presidential villa, as well as the office of the secretary to the government of the Federation, let's turn very quickly to the floor of the House of Representatives, where the valedictory session of the 9th House of Representatives held today. In attendance at that ceremony were former presiding and principal officers of the House of Representatives, as well as former clerks. In his remarks, the outgoing Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, commended his colleagues for their tenacity in the last 4 years. He said the 9th House, under his watch, broke the ceiling with its landmark achievements, passing 510 out of 2,232 bills introduced in its 4-year tenure.
Over the last 4 years, this House of Representatives has worked to ensure that our country can overcome those challenges and take advantage of the moment to achieve economic, social, and political transformations that benefit all of the Nigerian people. We elevated the debates in the House of Representatives and made this chamber the arena for informed exchange about Nigeria's future and the welfare of our nation's people. We have left our mark in every sector of our national life and positively impacted people's lives across our country.
Femi Gbajabiamila, you can call him the incoming Chief of Staff to President Tinubu. Let's speak very quickly now to Chairman House Committee on Treaties and Protocols, as well as agreements for the 9th House of Representatives, Nicholas Osai. Thank you for joining us on the first 100 days. It must really be an emotional day for you and your colleagues. You have been in the House for quite a number of years. We understand that you're not returning this time, but speak to us about the mood during the valedictory session.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting moment. I haven't seen you in the chamber over a long time, 12 years now, and leaving the chamber when some of your colleagues are still around. It gives you a certain level of memories. Just like what the speaker said, this night assembly has been highly impactful in terms of its productivity index. And I believe that we have passed a very landmark legislation in this night assembly, among which of them have in terms of energy and
Honorable Sai, we're having difficulties hearing you, but I guess you were talking about the landmark achievements made by the 9th Assembly. But if you can hear me, Honorable, there's been quite a number of comparisons between the 8th and the 9th Assembly as to which of these assemblies were able to put the executive on their feet and make them accountable. There are some who would say that, your house has been more like a rubber stamp to the executive. Do you agree?
I don't agree. I think it has been a collaborative effort between the two arms of government that yielded more productive index in terms of the contribution to the GDP, the contribution to creation of values to the masses in terms of your legislation which you have passed. A lot of infrastructure road that the executive embark on is due to the Assembly appropriating money to these sectors. The National Assembly has also passed a very landmark bill, that has also helped the country to stabilize to this extent it has established. Yeah, give it to the 8th Assembly. You don't remove anything from them. But there are a high level of disagreement between the executive and the legislature. It does not mean it's more productive than the Ninth Assembly. In Ninth Assembly, the end point of every legislation is making the people happy and making sure that you create value. The Ninth Assembly has created a lot of value index, if you want to calculate it in that form, translating to the masses benefiting from government in terms of infrastructures, in terms of legislations given to the state.
Which of the two models do you consider more productive, particularly if you are going to speak to the 10th National Assembly that perhaps has a higher number of opposition lawmakers and representatives, their relationship between the executive, what would you recommend going forward? I brought
a bill in the 8th Assembly to bring about legislative executive relationship, in a tripartite way. And I believe that the success of every nation is when the executives and the legislature comes together to agree on certain level. There must be disagreement, there must be conflict. It is there. There's no two ways about it, especially when the executive is going hard-handedness. It's incumbent on the legislative hand to correct and check excesses. And above all, accountability from the executive angle to be more accountable to Nigeria in terms of implementation of Appropriation Act. I think both of them have been good, but I can tell you now that because the executive has related with the legislature in the Ninth Assembly, it has been more productive in terms of when you want to compare productivity of both ends.
We have to go now, but you guys passed 510 bills, Electoral Act, the Constitution review, the idea of the January to December budget cycle. There's a startup bill, quite a number of them. Which of them would you say you are most proud of?
Yeah, I think the issues of devolution of power is the most exciting thing legislators have always come. I'm happy with, because now the state can be able to generate power. I think that's the most interesting thing. The state can generate power and make sure that, and when power energy is given to the masses, it causes a lot of multiplier effect because it has a lot of functions in any development when you come to development and debt.
Absolutely.
So I believe that the Ninth Assembly has done the needful in terms of that legislation. And because the executive relates within the Ninth Assembly, the executive was able to sign off that law. I'm
afraid that's our time, Honorable. Your party didn't allow you return. What's next for you now?
You see, this is about 20-something years in the legislature. There's nothing I've not seen. I've gotten a PhD in that level, and I am a consultant to any person who feels my contribution can help going.
Of course.
I think the National Assembly knows that, and that's why the National Assembly took me as one of the resource persons during the induction, to be able to deliver papers on such areas. So I believe I'm open to relate with National Assembly. I'm open to relate with the executive. My job now is in consultancy. So if your studio,
I was just going to say that you will have more time to talk to us now, especially.
Yes, of course. I will have more time to talk to you because
indeed
I can be able to give you more value in
Absolutely.
terms of the legislature, in terms of how legislative arms can relate well effectively to the benefit of the masses going forward.
Huge congratulations, Honorable, and thank you for your service to Nigeria. Yeah. Honorable Nicholas Osai.
Thank you.
was the chairman, House Committee on Treaties and Protocols and Agreements at the 9th House of Representatives. That's our show this evening. We're back tomorrow at 6 p.m. with more, but you can watch a repeat by 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.